Welcome to episode 1 of Murder Talk Radio.
Murder Talk Radio.
Absolutely. My name is Victoria Evans.
I am Parker Evans.
We are co-hosts / producers of Murder Talk Radio. And yes, this is episode 1, and we're very, very excited.
Yes, we are. We have more time to kill.
We do. We're recording over the intro that we hated, that we just did.
Yes, we are. And now it's done. And we're going to get back into the recording that we already had.
All right, cool. Ready, set, go.
All right, what are we talking about?
So today we're talking about a case that is almost 25 years old at this point. And it takes place in a small Oklahoma town that's just on the border of Oklahoma and Kansas.
Welch.
Yes, Welch, Oklahoma.
Worst name for a town. I was going to say ever, but there's probably worse.
Probably. So this happened back in 1999, and in this town there were only 588 people living there at the time. Welch is known for being like an agricultural town. That noise is...
I was trying to make it happen like...
He's trying to get a Nicorette lozenge.
Sometimes I can like flip that thing upside down and one just like slides out instantly into my hand. And then other times it's a maraca.
I wonder if the mic picked that up.
But yes. I should be able to cut it out though. We can just keep going.
But yeah, the town of Welch is known...
for its grape juice.
For livestock auctions and for being a crop-producing town, basically. And there are these two girls who, on December 29th, 1999, these two 16-year-old girls, Ashley Renee Freeman and Lauria Jaylene Bible, were celebrating a birthday.
You know, it's kind of a heartbreaking detail that Lauria Bible had to get permission from her parents to spend the night at the Freeman home.
I know. So
somehow
this
makes it like sadder.
It does, because you know that these parents allowed their 16-year-old girl to celebrate her birthday by having a sleepover with her best friend, and then, you know, it ends horribly and brutally.
Well, you know, it's kind of interesting, and we'll get into this a little bit more in a minute too, but that girl's parents are the only reason that anybody knows what happened at all.
Oh, yeah. God. This is like one of the most insane examples I've heard of.
We gotta start at the beginning. We can't.
Okay.
Okay, so super early in the morning, like 5:30 in the morning, December 30th. So the day before New Year's Eve.
Right.
God, that sucks too.
Mm-hmm. And the birthday is on the 29th, so there's Christmas and then her birthday and then New Year. Like, this is just gonna forever mess up this family's holidays around this time. Absolutely. And like, you know that these parents never forgive themselves for...
I don't know. There's nothing you can do.
Yeah, I mean, there is nothing you can do, but, you know, if I only said no.
You can't lock your kid in a basement, you know?
Yeah, that's true. You can't. That's very illegal.
Anyway, so really early in the morning, a couple people are commuting to work, and they see this house from the highway. They see it just engulfed in flames. Law enforcement later determined the fire was set by an arsonist, but the Good Samaritans who were commuting to work called 911 about this fire. And when the fire was out and they were looking through the burned out remains of the house, they found the mom, Kathy, was on the floor of their bedroom, and they determined she had died prior to the fire from a shotgun wound to the back of her head.
So Kathy is Ashley Freeman's mom.
Yes.
Yeah. And this was, just to be specific, this was Ashley's birthday that was happening at their home.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
So, Lauria Bible or Lauria Bibble.
It's got to be Bible.
I'm not sure how to say it, but she was going over to Ashley's house for Ashley's birthday. And yeah, so the first thing that they find is the mother's body with a gunshot wound.
Well, the first thing they found was actually Lauria Bible's car in the driveway, which still had its keys in the ignition, which is, you know, I'm not a police investigator, but I would think that was strange.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
The father, Danny Freeman, was considered still missing, so he became the officer's main suspect. He was known to have anger issues by locals in the town, and he was also known as a drug dealer, mostly of marijuana, possibly of methamphetamines.
So police think that Danny Freeman is missing, and they think that the two girls are missing. So despite the fact that they think 3 people are presumed missing, on December 30th, the Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigation released the crime scene from police custody. And just to clarify, yes, this is December 30th, the day after Ashley Freeman's birthday.
The day that it happened.
Yeah, the day that it happened.
From the police perspective, 5:30 a.m., December 30th, they get a phone call.
Right.
They show up at a burned out crime scene.
And then
they
later...
release the crime scene.
Yeah.
Is basically what happened.
So they released that crime scene insanely early. Less than 24 hours they've released this crime scene, which 3 people are missing, and it's suspected arson. So this is crazy. So early the next morning... the parents...
Oh, can I just say, you mentioned that it was arson, and if you go into the Murder Pop magazine article on this, there's actually a picture that I'm looking at right here. You see this?
Yeah.
This house is like gone.
It is.
There is nothing left. It's foundation and like some remains of furniture. There's nothing. The house is just decimated.
Yeah, it definitely looks like some accelerant was generously spread throughout the house, because this is like a pile of charred wood. Basically, like everything is gone. There's no structural integrity left. Like, yeah. So early the next morning, this would be December 31st, 1999, the parents of Lauria Bible, Jay and Laureen, went to the Freeman's farm to search for clues. I think that police basically jumped to conclusions thinking that they found the body of Kathy, and they pretty much decided that the dad had taken the girls or something, and there was no one else at the house, and yeah, that's... I think that's what they basically decided in...
That seems pretty accurate,
a couple hours.
They pretty much immediately find the body of the dad, Danny Freeman, just on the floor where investigators had been walking over it the day before when they were deciding that he was missing with the 2 girls and that they should release the crime scene.
When you first told me about this story, I thought that I had misheard you, because that is how insane this is. So when Jay and Lorraine Bible walked into, well, you know, not through the front door because the house is gone, but when they walked into the first section of the house that they came to on the farm, they immediately noticed boot marks on a body, because apparently police had trampled over Danny the day before. The crime scene investigators walked right over his body.
Yeah, Lorraine said that she walked in the house and basically just saw them immediately and said to her husband, that's Danny right there.
Yeah, like she actually's like, oh, look, it's Danny. Like, I'm just like, still, my mind is blown. Like, how does CSI not notice a freaking body laying right in front of them? They literally walked over the body. Like, how does that happen?
Only keeping the crime scene open for an hour and a half seems like it might have had some kind of impact on it.
It's insane. I just wish I could see the photos because I want to, like, would I have had a moment being like, oh, yeah, you can't really see him? Or is his body really just laying right there?
Lorraine said you could just see him. She said she walked in and
That's Danny right there.
she said it looked like a body that was missing the upper portion of its head. She said she could see it on gray sweatpants, despite the fire, a flannel shirt, a white t-shirt. She told that to an Australian news outlet called Foxtel. She said that she could see boot marks down his whole torso where police had walked on him the day before. And incredulous, she said, he's been here the whole time. They're out looking for him, thinking he kidnapped his daughter and her friend, and there his body is, just laying on the floor to be walked on by the police who were supposed to be investigating what happened at the house and finding the people responsible. You know, you asked if it was obvious or whatever, and I told you what Lorraine said, but J-Bible literally said, "How nobody noticed is beyond me. It was plain and simple and easy to see." The body of their friend lying on the floor.
Yeah, so much so that this prompted Lorraine to call 911 herself, which is insane. Like, hey, you guys should get back out here and check out this crime scene that you so haphazardly, cleared and left because, oh, there's another dead body here. We just saw it with your boot prints all over it.
His brother showed up. Danny Freeman's brother showed up at the house before police got back there the second time.
Yeah.
And positively identified his brother on the floor from his, he had some steel wire from a reconstructive work he had done in his sinus cavity. And his brother said he could see it just sticking out of his face. So he knew it was his brother. So he managed to show up and identify the body of his brother before police even made it out there to see the body they had walked all over. Pathetic.
Yeah. I'm really trying to think of how they could possibly miss that without, like, willful ignorance. Or if, like, oh, all the flames are going and the police are there and the fire department and they're putting it out. And, like, could the wind or something have... I don't know. I just don't get it. I think it was really just incompetence.
Incompetence and I think bias. They'd had some run-ins with the police before the family had. And so I think that there was some prejudice probably at work as well. The police thought they had the score as soon as they got there.
Imagine being so biased you can't see...
Based on previous interactions they'd had with the family.
Still, like... just that's such a strong bias.
Oh, I agree.
To blind you to a dead body that's right in front of you.
Yeah, I mean, it's...
like, even you can feel what you step on. You step on a body, are you not going to be like...
Yeah, that's a dumpster fire is what it is. It's not even... I can't even properly call it bias or prejudice because it is so much prejudice against the father that it's like they didn't even investigate at all. They found the one body and...
case closed.
Came up with a story that they liked.
So that's either exactly how we just explained it, or it was more malevolent than that, and they knew. But I feel like that's not the case because after they called 911...
There is one other option, which is that they're even more incompetent than we're assuming that they could be. That is, I want to at least acknowledge that that's possible. It could not be malevolence, and it could not be just that they walked in and, they found the one body and made up the story. Maybe they looked through the whole house, and they're just real dumb.
I mean, this is insane. They literally stepped on top of a dead body.
Maybe they missed that day in the academy. be careful where you walk in a crime scene that's been burned to the ground. You might not know where you're stepping on.
It's not like he was wearing
Fire day.
he's wearing all black or something and like blends in with the soot. He was wearing a white t-shirt with a flannel shirt over it and gray sweatpants.
At the risk of being called political on this, police in the United States get an abysmal amount of training. They get almost no training. If you think of the word training, there's an idea in your head about what that might entail, and I promise, whatever you're imagining, police get less of it than that.
And this was 1999, too.
Yeah, so even less.
Yeah, the training pre 9/11, like...
Random statistical fact, nothing to do with this story, but the average police officer spends exactly 1 day per year training with his service weapon.
Really, 1 day?
1 day. The average private gun owner goes at least once a month.
Where'd you read that?
Many gun owners, it's not in this. I just know it off the top of my head. It's a fairly well-known, like, people can look it up, it's true.
Yeah.
So they get a gun, and they carry it, and they learn how to use it, but they don't know they're not firearm enthusiasts. They don't know anything about guns. Sometimes if you see First and Second Amendment auditor videos, if you watch those, it can be quite humorous. The police will take a gun away from somebody temporarily. They'll seize it to try and establish that the person has a right to carry it. But when they seize it, they don't know how to operate it. So they'll have to ask how the magazine ejects. And they'll have to ask how to unlock it, how to take the safety off so that they can manipulate the slide.
Jesus.
I know. It's terrifying to think that somebody like that has a gun, that they carry it.
Yeah, especially considering
insane.
the rise in police shootings. Maybe that's why.
No.
All right, let's get back to the story.
Yeah, we've really been rambling
I
here.
love dogs.
Me too.
So.
The medical examiner, once they've had possession of Danny's body, medical examiner determined that he had also been shot, but in the face.
Right.
Because of that, it seems like, to me, he was probably the one targeted. And the mother was probably incidental, or, I don't know, after. Maybe she heard the noise and got up. Because his body was found downstairs. It was late at night that he was there. The fire was found at 5:30 in the morning. But shot in the face, it's a lot like stabbing somebody 80 times. It's a lot different than shooting somebody in the back of the head or the chest or something.
Yeah. My guess is that he was first.
Yeah.
And that was at the door, in the doorway. And that kind of facilitated, like, police totally just missing him.
Oh, wait, because the police incompetence actually gets better from here. So after they find Danny Freeman's body, the theory that they come up with is that these two girls are hiding out.
Oh, God. Yep.
Anyway, so yeah, the OSBI decides that the girls they're hiding out.
Yeah, instead of thinking, hey, maybe whoever shot Kathy and Danny, maybe he has the girls, they just assumed, some random person killed Danny and Kathy, and then the two girls escaped and were hiding. Insane. Absolutely insane. Or they even thought that the girls killed their parents.
They've never posited that I saw researching.
I wouldn't put it past them.
I wouldn't either, but
because of how ridiculous this is.
I didn't see it. That would actually make more.
I didn't see it either.
It would make more sense.
It would,
if that was their theory.
Yeah.
But instead, they just decided that they had run away.
They were hiding
to a treehouse.
It's so weird.
In Candyland.
Ooh.
So after the case goes cold from there, because the local police are absolutely
idiots,
absolutely incompetent, and a decade goes by, and in the decade that goes by, a guy named Jeremy Jones claims that he murdered the Freemans as a favor for a friend over a drug debt that the Freeman parents owned. And then he took the girls to Kansas, shot them, and threw their bodies in an abandoned mine.
And Welch is 8 miles from the Kansas border. So, that actually could ostensibly have happened.
Yeah, but police searched the mine, and they turned up nothing.
Right.
And then he admitted that he made up the story to get better food and phone privileges in prison, where he already was.
Because that's how our prison system works.
In 2010, the Freeman family sadly had Ashley declared legally dead. Yeah. And then in April of 2018, news came out, a guy named Ronnie Dean Busick, age 66, was charged with 4 counts of murder for the death of Bible and the Freeman family.
Yep. 2 other suspects were also identified, though both of them are deceased.
Convenient.
Right. So the first is Warren Phillip Welch, the second.
He was known as Phil, apparently.
Phil, who...
like to keep it loose.
I also like that his name is the name of the town. Warren Welch the second. Who died in 2007, and then David Pennington, who died in 2015. So, according to the Washington Post, at least a dozen witnesses claimed that all 3 of those men, Ronnie, Phil, and David, bragged about raping and murdering the 2 16-year-old girls. And about taking photographs and videos of them.
Yes. Several of the witnesses alleged that the 3 men killed the Freemans over drug money, and the girls were held captive in Welch's trailer for days before they were murdered. And multiple of those witnesses claimed to have seen video evidence that the girls were still alive 2 days after the fire at a New Year's Eve party at a meth house in the Badlands of neighboring Ottawa County. That was allegedly at the house of a popular local meth cook, not to be confused with one of the unpopular local meth cooks.
Yeah, we all know who
story.
that is. We don't.
Lost my place. A guy named Chester Shadwick in Wyandotte. I can't think of any other pronunciations for that. I'm assuming one of those is correct. So, or it may have happened in the nearby home of another, not just another meth cook, but a father and son meth cooking team. They were real dynamos.
So cute.
Real captains of industry. Entrepreneurs.
It's a family business.
Absolutely.
From the ground up.
Absolutely. From the ground up pseudoephedrine that they bought at Walgreens. Paul Glover Sr. and Paul Glover Jr.
Classy. Very classy.
Absolutely.
Oh, man. So this big party happens, and witnesses are saying that they themselves saw video of the girls, and I think some were even saying that they themselves saw the girls.
Yeah, I believe that's accurate.
Which is insane to me, that something like this could happen and no one would be like, hey.
Some witnesses signed affidavits that said that the girls may have been kept alive for as long as a week after their abduction, that they were allegedly drugged with meth, tied up, not just raped, but repeatedly raped, that they were tied up together, that they were seen looking emaciated, and that they had seen video of the girls being assaulted. Doesn't specify by who, presumably some of the many local meth cooks that were involved in the story.
Yeah, one of the witnesses described a young, dirty blonde-headed girl tied by the wrists on her knees, being sexually assaulted in the house. And they themselves recognized Shadwig, the popular meth dealer, from the distinctive rock wall that was in his house. So...
Yeah, and that witness didn't know the girls, I guess, but he said he later saw a TV report and he recognized one of the girls from the TV report.
I need to re-say this.
Okay, go ahead.
One of the witnesses described seeing a young, dirty blonde-headed girl tied by her wrists and on her knees, being sexually assaulted in the house. And they described the house as having this distinctive rock wall, which they absolutely recognized as being Shadwig's house.
Yeah, and that witness said that he actually saw a TV report where he recognized Lauria Bible as the girl that he had seen on the video that someone had shown him that he recognized from Shadwick's house. I guess before that he didn't know, who they were. Just a random video of some girl, I guess.
Right, he probably thinks it's some weird porn or something.
Yeah, who knows?
That his meth dealer is showing him, and then sees it on the news later, recognizes the girl. That's terrifying.
Yeah, that's
but
awful.
Then again, I don't know who all the witnesses are, but it's kind of like that thing where you're reading
presumably meth heads.
Yeah, where you're reading biographies by musicians and they all tell similar stories, but they're slightly different. I'm like, that's because they're all, I'm going off on kind of a thing, but...
So, in 2001...
hey, just cut that out.
Okay. So, in 2001, officers searched the Shadwick and Glover properties, and they found VHS tapes and a roll of film, as well as blood on some carpet, and they found a meth lab. But nothing directly related to Lauria and Ashley, and the blood that they found reportedly was not human. But they finally got a break in the case when they found a box of documents that led them to an overlooked clue that, and this is just again highlighting the total, absolute, I don't have enough adjectives, incompetence of this local police department. A private investigator found this clue, a guy named Tom Pryor. He found an insurance verification card in the Freeman's driveway days after the murder. So this is after police have been back at the house multiple times. So then this private investigator goes and finds a business card in the driveway. Just insane.
Yeah.
And not only that, but he told investigators about the card, and they chose not to take it as evidence. They just chose not to. They said, no thanks. Nah, we got it, Tommy.
I mean, they could think we didn't see it when it was there. How do we know that this card wasn't placed here after the fact to frame somebody, blah, 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 blah. But still, when you have a PI come to you that is easily vettable, I feel like you should take what they're giving you and work with them. But it definitely seems like this police department was dealing with some big egos in a tiny ass town. And,
well, Tom, yeah. Obviously I don't know this guy, but I consider this a testament to his personal character. He takes that card, he puts it in a sandwich baggie, and he takes it home and puts it in a filing cabinet where it stays for 20 years almost.
Yep.
2 decades, hoping that someone will eventually show up and go, hey, do you still have that thing you found? And that did happen. A guy named Gary Stansel from the DA's office and a woman named Tammy Ferrari from the Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigation came looking for the card. And Gary Stansel says that he calls it a miracle that this card was still around.
Literally like an insurance verification card that was kept by a private investigator for 2 decades.
Who was under no obligation to keep it. The police said they didn't want it. Honestly, I know that I have somewhat of a mercurial personality sometimes. But if I was the private investigator and I brought that card to the police and I said, hey, you're going to want this. And they said, no, that's all right. I might fling it at them and then walk out. Well, not my problem. I did what I could do. I don't know that I would take it home and store it for 20 years.
I might. I'm weird. That would be something I would do.
That's a long time.
It is a long time. But I'd be like, I found this at a crime scene, and I was hired by some people to look for... I'm keeping it. These cops are freaking idiots.
I guess it would kind of depend, I don't know. If he's a local and he owns a house there and he's owned the house for 10 years already, has no intention of moving, his private eye business is doing well in the town of Welch or wherever he was located. Like I said, I don't know.
Can you even imagine how excited he would be?
I move.
Like, I'm imagining he has a wife or something, and he's like, baby, you will never guess what just happened.
I've moved a lot, so, like, the idea of trying to hang onto a card, like a little business card, and keep it safe for 20 years. I just realized that a microphone can't pick up me shaking my head. Consummate professional.
I saw it here, folks. He was indeed shaking his head.
All right, so.
Yeah, so another woman who lived in Welch.
No. There's a guy named Welch. She lived
with
Welch.
Sorry, I'm not reading this right.
I don't know if they lived in Welch, but she may have lived with Welch in Welch.
I thought Welch was... That would be fucking weird. That's why initially I thought, Welch the Second. Like, are you a descendant, even though this town's been around for a good minute? But isn't Welch in Kansas?
No, he's dead.
But wasn't he from Kansas, right?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
Probably.
Whatever, it's like 8 miles away or something.
He was probably from the town of Welch.
That's what I thought, but then they said they took them to Kansas. So that would have been 8 miles to the border, and then Welch it's just the dude's last name.
Yeah.
Lives in Kansas.
Yeah.
Okay, anyway. High Times on Murder Lane. All right.
Murder High on Lane Times. It's the name of my bowling team.
You don't have a bowling team.
I do. We're the Murder High on Lane Times. I just told you that.
All right. So there's another... We'll start that over. A woman who lived with Phil Welch a short time after the disappearances of the 2 girls also provided a sworn affidavit, and she said that she heard conversations between all 3 of those men where they disclosed that the murder victims had owed them money, and that Phil Welch kept a briefcase that contained Polaroid photos that showed the girls bound and gagged with duct tape lying on a bed. And Phil Welch was lying next to the girls in some of those photographs. Creepy. I don't know what it is about Polaroid photos of stuff like this, but it makes it creepier.
Creepier than if they'd used film and had it developed at the local photo hut?
Okay, that's absurd. No one would do that. Can you imagine who would develop? You'd have to, like, hold a gun to someone's head to make them develop those photos.
Where would it end?
It would never end.
Who would develop the photos of the man who develops the photos being murdered?
No one.
That's why I use a Polaroid.
Well, now that we've solved that.
Murder Talk Radio, sponsored by Polaroid.
I fucking wish.
Me too. I'm just kidding.
That'd be
Please
cool.
don't sue us, Polaroid. We're not sponsored.
We love Polaroid.
We have no association with Polaroid whatsoever. We would accept a sponsorship from Polaroid.
Just throwing that out there. Click, click. All right. So where were we? So, yes.
In a public statement that the Bible family issued, they said that they had been aware of the alleged photographs and videos for years. And they said, and this is a quote, "At this time, all focus is on finding Lauria and Ashley. We welcome all information leading to their recovery. Until they're home with us, this will never be over."
A former girlfriend of David Pennington told investigators that Pennington talked about the missing girls all the time and had actually told her that the murders were the result of a bad drug deal. And she said that one of the Freeman's parents, presumably that would be Danny, the father, based on the location of the bodies, was negotiating a drug deal with Pennington inside their home when the two girls walked into the room, and the deal went bad.
Investigators later alleged Welch, Pennington, and Busick murdered Ashley's parents, kidnapped the two teens over the drug debt, but they've given no indication that they have any evidence to confirm any kind of a drug angle to the murders. Apparently, if it's true that Danny Freeman was a drug dealer, he was apparently the only competent person who lived in the town of Welch.
Also, according to the affidavit, Welch, Pennington, and Busick claimed to have raped and tortured the girls before disposing of their remains either in a pit or a mine shaft in Pincher, Oklahoma.
I think that's... There's no N.
Pitcher, Oklahoma.
Picher? Piker?
Pisher?
Could be Piker. Could be Pisher.
God, these guys' faces.
Yeah, again, if you go into the... It's subscribers only, I think, actually, the text article on this. But if you're a Murder PM subscriber, you can go. I think the other photo is before the paywall cuts in. So if you go to the article, you can see the burned out house and you can see the families and stuff, but you won't be able to see the three
Stooges.
Okay, we can call them stooges. I was going to call them methficionados. But yeah, so if you're a Murder PM subscriber, if you go to the Bible on the Disappearance of Lauria Bible and Ashley Freeman, you will be able to see Pennington, Welch, and Busick. And I guess if you're not a subscriber, you could always just Google their photos. You will be able to find them. But yeah, they all look like winners to me.
So absolutely, they've definitely won something. According to an affidavit, Welch, Pennington, and Busick claimed to have raped and tortured the girls before disposing of their remains either in a pit or a mine shaft in Pisher, Oklahoma.
Picher?
Pisher.
Picker? Piker.
One of those. Probably one of those, right?
Maybe one of those.
Picher, Oklahoma. Law enforcement also said that they believe the remains could have been dumped in a cellar that was later covered in concrete.
Surviving members of the victims' families are really skeptical of that. Dwayne Vansel, I think that's the same guy who identified Danny Freeman, the brother. He posed this question when he was asked for comment by the Joplin Globe. How many drug deals do you know where a man is beaten, he and his wife are shot and killed, 2 girls are abducted, and their home set on fire? He believes the murders of Ashley, Danny, and Kathy Freeman, and Ashley's friend, Lauria Bible, were too extreme for this to make any sense. This is a quote from him. He says, "I think this crime had too much of a personal, vicious side to it."
I noticed that he also said that Danny was beaten, and Dwayne's the one who identified him from the metal and from the reconstructive surgery in his sinus cavity. So to say that he was beaten before he was shot, that's the first time that I believe that information came up, was from Dwayne.
And I'm wondering now, like, was he, or is he inferring that based on, say, evidence that was, I'm going to call it injured, when police in their big fucking tactical boots stomped all over him when they stormtroopered their way into the crime scene.
Right.
Because how would you determine that?
Like post-mortem
and the body was
bruising, I guess.
Some of this, we're lacking a little bit of detail. For instance,
we are.
His clothes were described as somewhat intact. To be able to see gray sweatpants and a white t-shirt after a fire, that's a little weird. Especially
in that freaking house.
Yeah.
The only thing that made sense to me about that was because he was near the front door. And that's just me trying to make sense of it. I find a lot of it to be strange. That's why I was wondering, how do you miss a body like that? Was it put there after the fact? I really don't know.
I mean, I guess that's possible, but I don't think it's very likely. More likely that he died where he fell.
Yeah. You know? I mean,
especially
I think so
missing part of his head. And only part of his head.
Yeah. Which, a gun will do that. And also,
a shotgun, they said.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll take it right off. But Dwayne Vansell also said that, I'm sorry. I don't know what I'm saying. Dwayne.
The thing that Dwayne.
Say what I'm saying.
I was just going to comment because I made this comment earlier. I just read this quote from him. But the quote that he said, where he said he thought the crime was personal and too vicious, that's what I was saying at the beginning of this, that to shoot somebody in the face is just so, like, I know they took the girls and stuff too, but that detail of the face for me just stands out so much. It's so personal.
It really is. Shooting someone in the face is...
with a shotgun.
How do you get more personal than that?
You're obliterating their whole face.
Yep. What I was going to say is that Dwayne may have said he was beaten out of, like, frustration or whatever. Like, that doesn't necessarily mean he was straight up beaten.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, it's not a police statement. It's a stepbrother who had to, unfortunately, identify his own brother because police were too stupid.
Still at the crime scene.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
it had to be rough.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't even imagine. Of the 3 men, only Busick is still alive, and he's denied involvement in the girls' murders and kidnappings until his 2020 guilty plea. Now, he was arrested in 2018, and after his arrest, he told reporters that he wanted to speak with the Bible family. And on April 26, 2018, Lorraine Bible confirmed that she did, in fact, speak to Busick, but he denied knowing the whereabouts of her daughter or of Ashley Freeman.
He admitted that he withheld information about the involvement of the other 2, Welch and Pennington, in 2020. He pled guilty to being an accessory to first-degree murder in the deaths of Danny and Kathy Freeman, to the arson of their home, near Welch, Oklahoma, and the abduction and presumed killing of the two teenagers. You know, without his confession, nobody will ever know what happened to him. Mm-hmm. Without somebody coming forward.
The stories that so many people have told just seem very likely. They walked in on a bad deal, and we don't even know how many people were there in the house. It could have been all three of them. It could have been one, and, like, who knows? We're just never going to know how it all exactly played out.
So, Busick, in what I'm going to describe as an abortion of justice, was sentenced to 15 years for his crime. 10 of those were to be spent in lockup. But the Oklahoma Department of Corrections decided that because Busick was respectful to prison staff, didn't get into trouble in prison, followed orders in prison, and didn't have an extensive criminal history, you know, aside from being a meth cook,
connected to multiple homicides,
involved in the murder of Danny Freeman and his wife, the abduction of their daughter and another girl. Aside from that, he didn't have a very extensive criminal history, so...
Yeah, aside from meth, kidnap, rape, and murder.
Absolutely.
He was a good guy.
Who among us?
Really respectful to the prison staff.
Who among us has not cooked meth, killed a family, and then kidnapped and raped not only their children, but another child? You know, I don't actually think I want to include this in a...
Yeah, I mean, that's just a 3-day weekend where we're from.
Yeah, I don't think we're including this.
Let's not include that, yeah. I knew you were going to stop and say that.
Because he didn't get in trouble, followed orders, didn't have an extensive criminal history, he gets 60 credits per month, or 2 days credit for each day served, plus the credit for the time he served while he was in jail waiting for his trial. And as a result, he was released earlier this year, May 19th, 2023, after serving less than 3 years for the murder of the Freeman family and the abduction of the Freeman daughter and the Lauria Bible, her friend, from their 16th birthday celebration that they were trying to have at the Freeman house.
Mm-hmm.
He's out.
Yep. Sure the hell is.
Their remains have never been found. Investigators said that when Busick was being interrogated, he kept repeating the root cellar. And his stepdaughter alleged that he'd forbidden anyone from going into the root cellar in their house. And on October 7th, 2021, police searched the root cellar of the house, but news reports following the search suggest nothing was found. So what do you think? Horrifying story.
Horrifying, and just another example of... I mean, the story in and of itself is horrifying, and the police fumble, the incompetence of law enforcement in and of itself is just another example in, like, a long line of seemingly endless examples of police just doing ridiculous nothings.
Yeah, and just small point of correction here. Fumbles. Because they actually had, like, I don't know, at least a half a dozen different ones on just this one case.
Yes, fumbles, plural.
Yeah, very plural.
With a capital P.
And a capital Laurel.
Yep. So, horrifying. It's crazy to me that he's out.
That's insane. 3 years? Less than 3 years?
Yep.
Of a 15-year sentence?
Yep.
What's the point of having 15-year sentences? Why not just shorten the sentence? I don't understand. Just in case they misbehave in prison?
I'm really curious to know what her parents think about that. About his release. Probably nothing good.
The mother gave an interview where she basically said, I'm going to be watching you.
Good for her. I would be. Absolutely.
I don't know that I probably shouldn't say, but I don't know that watching would be an accurate description of what I would do.
I'm sure she and her husband had that conversation, and she was very particular about her wording.
Maybe.
God, that's just horrible, horrifying.
It is. What an awful story.
It really is a terrible story.
One of the worst that I've researched for this.
It really is one of the worst that I've heard of about the police doing like a horrible job.
I don't want to give anything away because it's like our first episode, but this is easily in the top 3 worst stories. I don't want to say what the other 2 are because we're going to do them at some point, and I don't want to let that cat out of that bag just yet because this one was bad and the other ones are actually worse than this one. But I would still put this in the top 3. This is the 3rd worst story that I've researched.
I thought the law enforcement involved in the Delia Day case did a horrible job, but, you know, after hearing these stories, that almost doesn't seem that bad.
No, it makes them look competent. This has been Murder Talk Radio.
Yes, it has. It has.
We'll see you next time.
We absolutely will.
Because we don't want to be seen. That's why we're doing a podcast.